Hey, boys and girls, welcome. This is Mr. Flanagan. I am going to be reviewing Photopea, and I wanted to just go over some of the tools and some of the various things that we went over during class over the past few days. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do is if you haven't taken notes for your um, for your slide 1 in week 7. Please follow along and take notes in your sketchbook. These notes will be great reference when using Photopea for other assignments down the line. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is keep in mind whenever you save from Photopea as a PSD, file save as PSD, it will save to your Google Drive. So I'm going to now open my project from my Google Drive. And the first thing I'm going to do is look along the left side and find my drive. And when I click my drive, I should be able to find, there it is, my PSD file. You can see the file type is a PSD, so that's the one I want. So I'm going to click open. And I've done a lot of work on this PSD already, so there's lots of layers, and our Chromebook will take just a moment to open these layers because there are quite a few. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put all these layers into a folder so that I can start fresh here, and you can see what it is, what the first step is in this process. So I'm going to scroll down to look at all these layers. Hold Shift to select the very last layer. And now I'm going to drag all of these layers right into a folder here. There we go. And I can, just as easily as when I turn off one layer, I can turn off all the layers in this folder just by clicking that I. Okay, so keep that in mind. Whenever you want to if you want to just turn off a layer temporarily, you can just turn on that I or turn it off very easily. Okay, so I'm going to select my background layer. Always have to be selected on your background layer, that the layer with the images, to adjust the color. And I'm going to zoom in by clicking Control plus, so please write that down. If I hold the space bar, I can move around my composition. So if I hold the space bar and I click and drag, I can move around within my composition here. Okay, so Control plus is zoom in, Control minus is zoom out. Make sure you write that down. All right. On the left-hand side, I have my lasso tool. So this is a great selection tool to use. And when I select that lasso tool, I am now able to make selections of various things in my composition, different elements. And so once I make that selection, I need to hold Shift to add to that selection. Okay? And the reason why I'm doing this in pieces, you guys already know, is because by doing this in pieces, if I make a mistake, I can just as easily undo it instead of having to start fresh. Okay? So for example, if I was to start here and I go all the way around, and I did such a good job outlining this, not really here, but I did such a good job outlining it, and just as I'm about to finish, my mouse gets stuck or my stylus goes off, and I have this awkward selection. Okay, you can avoid that by making smaller selections. And when you make smaller selections, and then you hold Shift, right, to select more. If I do end up going off a bit, I can just use Control Z to undo. Okay, write that down. Control Z will allow you to undo anything any mistake you've made. There we go. Okay, I'm going to copy it, Control C, or you can go to Edit and Copy. And I'm making sure I'm on that layer with my drawing. So after I Control C, I can click Control V, and that will paste that layer right in front of my drawing. So as you can see, if I turn off this background layer, there it is, right? It's right there for me. So I can select that layer. I can even double click it and name it Seagrass if I'd like. That makes things kind of nice, because then I can go back and see what my layers are called and easily select them. So once that's selected, I can go to Image, Adjustments, hue saturation, right? That's one way to get here to adjust your color, or you can click Control U, which will also be a quicker way to get to that window. All right, so from here, I'm going to click Colorize. I'm going to move this box so I can see what I'm actually coloring here. Make sure Preview is on. Bring the lightness down a little bit. Bring that saturation up. And change the hue till it's something that you like. Now, I know I'd like for the seagrass to be green, but I know I also want it to be a little darker. So I can bring that lightness down a little more. I can bring that saturation up a little more if I want it to be brighter. Okay, so this is all, personal selections that you can decide on. Click OK, and there it is. I can turn it on and off, and it's there in front of my drawing layer. Okay, the most common mistake I see here is students making selections and just adjusting the color without putting it on their own layer. So make sure you always put it on its own layer. Now I'm going to go back down to my drawing layer. I'm going to hold my space bar to move around a little bit. Now I'm going to make a selection here. I have my lasso tool selected over there on the left, right over here. I'm going to hold Shift. Whoops, I messed up. Control Z. Hold Shift. Make that selection. Selecting it in pieces in case I make a mistake. All right, and copy that and paste it. Now, my hotkeys for getting to the color adjustment, Control U, click Colorize, bring that lightness down a little bit, bring that saturation up a little bit, and adjust that hue. It's not doing it. I wonder why. Let's see if it's actually there. It's not actually there. I must have made a selection on the wrong layer. All right, let's go back. I'm going to select that background layer, that image layer, make my selection. Always need to be on that image layer when you copy and paste. There we go. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it. And let's just make sure it's there. Oh, good, it's there this time. Perfect. All right, if I select this lobster and I go to Control U, I can click Colorize. I can adjust that color to make it a little darker, make that brightness a little brighter, and find that color that I'm looking for. Purple lobster, sure. Now I can turn that background back on. There we go. Now, the great thing about layers is if I decide I want to change the background or the surface that this lobster and the seagrass is on, once I make my selection, and I copy it and paste it from my drawing layer, I can adjust those colors. Control U, right? Colorize, bring the lightness down a little bit, bring the saturation up a little bit. Oh, it doesn't look like it copied. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. All right, so select that drawing layer. Make that selection of the area that you want, that surface that the seagrass and the lobster are resting on. Copy it, paste it. There we go. Now it's there. See? Turn those layers on and off just to make sure it's there. Perfect. Now I can select that layer, Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation, or Control U. Click Colorize. Bring that lightness down. Bring that saturation up. Find that. I'm looking for like a sandy color, so I'm going to bring that lightness up a little bit. Bring that saturation down. There we go. That looks good. All right, so that's the process. Now, guys, this is also really important. This is something that we learned just the other day, more recently. If you click this arrow tool will allow you to make selections from your layers without actually having to find that layer. So once you get into where you have like 30 layers and you're like, where was that lobster? I can't remember. Especially if you don't label it, you can't find it, right? All right, I finally found it. There it is. But just as easily, you can use this arrow tool to select your layer. And if you click auto select up top, right? If you click the arrow layer and then just below edit, there's auto select and there's also transform controls. Always click those both on because transform controls will allow you to make things larger, right? larger or smaller. I'm just going to undo that. Control Z. Okay. If I wanted to select my seagrass, since I have auto select on also, I can just click it instead of having to find the layer. Really, really convenient. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. Today we are going to be learning about how to add texture to our compositions. So I'm going to turn off these layers that I just created and go back to my original one that I have all of that work done on. My numerous layers of color. There we go. So I'm going to go to Google, find a nice watery texture, water texture, I suppose. And then, let's see, I'm going to find something interesting. This is kind of cool. Let me try that. All right, so I'm going to download this to my images folder. So if I control click it, looks like I open in another tab. Download JPEG preview image. Sure, let's download it. All right, cool. So there it is. Another great place to find textures is a website called unsplash.com. That is unsplash.com. Okay. All right, and you're going to download the image. When you download that image, it's going to save to your images folder, as mine just did. And now I'm going to go back to my Photopea composition, go to File, and Open. And this is really the same process that you guys used for adding a separate image to your compositions. You added a drawing a couple days ago. So let's see. Oh, here's the image. Let's open that up. I'm going to drag this over to my composition. Just by using that selection tool, right, that arrow tool, I grabbed it and I moved it over. Right, you can also select an area that you want. If I don't want that stuff down there, I can delete it later, or I can just copy it, my selection tool, and paste it. Whoops, there we go. There it is. Okay, so is my auto select on? It is, great. So now I can just select it. There it is. I'm going to move it to the top because I want it in front of everything. And then I'm going to show you something magical. It's called blending modes. Blending modes are the most magical thing you will learn in this class. Check this out. So I'm going to scale this up. I'm going to zoom out first so I can see my whole composition. I'm going to scale this up so it takes up. Looks like something happened to my seagull. I moved a layer by accident. It's okay. All right, so I'm going to move this so it takes up the whole composition because my transform controls are on, so I can adjust the size of my images. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now, let's try some blending modes, guys. So I want to make sure I'm selected on that layer and then hold Shift and plus. And every time I click plus, it's going to give me a different type of effect, allowing certain areas to shine through and other areas not to. Love that. That's actually really cool. I'm going to turn this layer off for a second and figure out what's going on with this thing. Let's move that back up to where it was. There we go. And I have my auto select tool on, so I can just, if that's clicked, I can just select anything I want. I can select this lobster. I can select the seagull's beak, right? Because it's all on its own layer, so it's easy to do. All right, so there. Turn that texture back on. Ooh, blending modes, magic. Turn them on. There you go. All right, that's where we're at today. It is Wednesday, November 4th. So if you have your project colored, if you have another image that you've added, you remember I had that scary looking seagull that I had added later down the line. And we're adding our textures today. So make sure you have all of your tools written down in your sketchbook for reference. And And that's it, guys. All right, so I will see you in class. If you have any questions, as always, please ask. This project is due on Friday, so you'll be submitting it through Google Classroom. Thank you.